How can I greet the dawn with song when darkness eclipses the rising sun? To whom shall I turn when the clouds of the past, the clouds of the present eclipse the rays of tomorrow? Turn me around to yesterday, that I may be consoled by its memories. Were not the seas split asunder? Did we not walk together through the waters to the dry side? Did we not bless the bread that came forth from the heavens? Did your voice not reach my ears and direct my wanderings? The waters, the lightning, the thunder remind me of yesterday's triumphs. Let the past offer proof of tomorrow. Let it be my comforter and guarantor. I have been here before, known the fright, and found your companionship. I enter the sanctuary again to await the echo of your promise. Our friend Fred grew up with such texts. I want to savor him just a little bit with you. I came to Chicago in the bleak winter of 1962. I saw to my delight that they'd flooded the rink in front of the Old Main on the college campus. So that first night I went out and took a little skate around. A Canadian boy doing what we do in America. It was the next day, or maybe the day after that, that I walked into George's restaurant. Not Laurie's restaurant. Laurie's restaurant was across the street. It was for different kind of student. There they had ice cream creations and what have you. But in George's, the Greasy Spoon, run by the wonderful Greek immigrant, we knew that if Nikos Kazantzakis was going to come to Chicago, he would somehow show up there. So that's where we met and talked. So it's been a 50-year conversation, a kind of marathon conversation. I suppose my affection for Fred was immediate because he clearly was uncomfortable with the university. Here was a man, a merit scholar, graduated at the top of his class, obviously prepared to be a professor. And when I met him, he had just graduated a few months before. When I met him, he was working on the garbage crew and the grounds crew of the university. Where does that come from? Where does that come from? And then in the summer, he and another colleague, Jim Butterworth of blessed memory, transformed the whole campus with their Japanese-style trimming of all the bushes, much to the chagrin of the president, who said to me he saw no connection between the Japanese and the Swedes. Needless to say, he was Swedish. And the wonderful summer that we read Aquinas together, dry as dust, Aquinas, unbelievably dry, but with wonderful, fresh conversations at noon every day. And then Freud, and then Marx. We even both bought Lenin's collected works, but I suppose most of our age did. Never did manage that. And then we spent a year or so together in the basement of the headquarters of the church that had shaped Fred. It's part of his place. Some of you may not know that. But we all carry place around with us and seek to make it new where we are. And it was in those conversations in the basement of the church headquarters where we were working together for the new leadership of that church that we both came to realize that this wonderful folk community that we had grown up with and that we treasured had been hijacked and was becoming an American corporation. It broke our hearts. I haven't thought about it for quite a number of years, but I've thought about it in the last few weeks. It broke our hearts and sent us into, I think both of us, into a kind of long depression. Mine lasted 10 years. Fred was a little quicker than I was. That church is part of a movement. And I realized, thinking about today, just how much my dear friend embodied what was best in that movement and made it new again. And since his mother and father are in paradise and can now listen to me and hear me, I will speak it boldly. You see, that movement was originally called the Readers. And who of you would not recognize that in our friend? People of the book. People who see that great inheritance as the opportunity for the great conversation and to wrestle through things. That movement was also a movement that was deeply critical of institutions which had lost their vocation, lost their self-understanding. The university, the church at times, all of these matters. Fred, of course, embodied that, as you all well know. That movement sought for the simple life. That movement is embodied across the street in the garden that so many of you tend and that he loved. So, in that movement of Swedish immigrants which shaped his childhood and past, there were really only two things you could talk about: politics and religion. And if you weren't interested in that, then for many people who were our spiritual ancestors, they would give you about 15 minutes and then get on with the real work of love. Fred had, from the time that I first talked with him, what I would call, in the language of the Bible, a kind of prophetic vision. Now, I don't know about the church in which we stand, but I know that many people assume that prophets foretell the future. But of course, they have it absolutely backwards. Prophets tell forth the present. That's why they're significant. They speak about what they see in our unfolding life together. That prophetic vision is not easy to live with. Because so often, the fire in the belly captures everything. One of the lovely things that I have seen over the last few years is how my friend finally to a place of peace and rest, a place where all that was best in the past, which had led to so much struggle, found its natural place. And here in New Haven, here with you, here tending the gifts of the earth, and here in the great conversations.